What's up, dude? Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video you're gonna see me wearing makeup, and that is because I am in a wedding on Saturday that I'm very excited about. So I needed to practice my makeup look for this weekend. This is not what I'm gonna go with. Well, the eye look anyways isn't. It's much too dark. Like, my eyeliner got way too thick, I think. So I have something different in mind that I'm going to try tomorrow. So you guys might see that in either the Friday or Monday video. I'm going to try to get a little bit ahead if I can, just to get a jump on next week, since I'll be busy on Friday working and the rehearsal dinner. So actually I need to get a video done for Friday too. So lot happening, but let's get into today's case. William R. Horton was born on August 12th, 1951 in Chesterfield, South Carolina. Now, not much is known about his early life, so we are gonna kind of just jump ahead to when he was 23 years old. And the date is now October 26th, 1974, so I think he is 23 years old. Well, yeah, he would be 23. Anyways, but on October 26th, he and two accomplices robbed a gas station attendant in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Now, Lawrence is a pretty big city, even, like, I mean, today I think there's, like, 80,000 people that live there. So even back then, it was still a bigger city. Of course, that's not what the population was back then. But the attendant was 17-year-old Joseph Fournier. He was stabbed 19 times after being robbed. Joseph was totally compliant and gave the men everything that they wanted from the gas station's cash register. So he gave them all the cash that they had on hand, just did whatever they wanted, and they still stabbed him. So that's not very groovy. So to hide the body, William and the two other men, who I could not really figure out what their names were, but the three of them stuffed Joseph's body into a trash can. And keep in mind, he was still alive, so his feet were like squished and like jammed up by his chin. He unfortunately did pass away from blood loss after being stabbed that many times. William was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, I couldn't figure out, like, how long he was on the run, if he was caught right away. That I could not figure out, because unfortunately this case doesn't get, like, more notable until the end, unfortunately. So, no boo-boo. William was put in the Northeastern Correctional Center in Massachusetts, and at the time, Massachusetts had a weekend furlough program. So, what?
How late is the inside of the post office open?
5.
Oh, sweet. Okay. I'll leave in.
Good. So a weekend furlough program was basically where they would just let inmates out for the weekend, but they had to report back to the prison on, I believe, like that Monday morning or Sunday. No, I think it was Sunday nights. They had to report back to the prison, but they were just totally, like, let go and could just, like, have the weekend out to, like, see their family, see friends, pretty much do whatever. And it was like a form of rehabilitation that they were trying out. And Massachusetts was one of the only states that did this, you know, kind of for some semi-obvious reasons. They didn't have ankle monitors, you know, nothing like that at the time. So the furlough program, originally signed into law by Republican Governor Francis Sargent in 1972, excluded convicted first-degree murderers. However, in 1973, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruled that this right extended to first-degree murderers because the law specifically didn't exclude them. So, like, it did have some boundaries, but then they were like, you know what? Nah, these guys, first-degree, no, that's all right. They can be free too. I just don't, personally, I don't think this program was a good idea at the time. I'm still not really sure that I think something like this could even work today, just with, you know, knowing how people can be. But anyways, it was something that they were trying, you know, they were trying to help the inmates and whatnot. So props to them for that, for trying to make them, like, grow into better people. Even though William was given life in prison without the possibility of parole, he was still granted 10 weekends of furlough. So it's not like they could get out every weekend, but when they were let out, there's no supervision. On June 6th, 1986, William used one of those weekend passes that he had, but of course he did not return. Angela and Clifford Barnes were an engaged couple. Okay, now I don't know if they were engaged or if they were married. Sources kind of differ on that, but it doesn't really matter. Well, kind of, because at the time, if they were only engaged and living together, it's a little scandalous, even for 1986. Or 1987, sorry. And they were living in a picture-perfect suburb of Washington, D.C. Oxon Hill, Maryland was the suburb, but it's still, like, so even though it's in Maryland, it's still, like, a suburb of D.C., like, it's just a little bit outside of D.C., but on April 3rd, 1987, William broke into their home, pistol-whipped, stabbed, bound, and gagged Clifford. Then he proceeded to rape Angela. He took the couple's car as a getaway vehicle, but later he was shot by Corporal Paul J. Lopez from the Prince George's County Police Department and captured by Corporal Yusuf A. Muhammad from the same department. Then, on October 20th, sentencing judge Vincent J. Fimia sentenced William to 2 consecutive life terms plus 85 years. So he really threw the book at him. He was to serve his life sentence at the Jessup Correctional Institution in Jessup, Maryland, instead of Massachusetts, because the judge said, "I'm not prepared to take the chance that Mr. Horton might again be furloughed or otherwise released. This man should never draw a breath of free air again." So, I mean, after like an instance like this, I would just chalk the furlough program up to kind of a loss. Didn't really work how they thought it would. Maybe one person shouldn't wreck it for everybody, but I'm just saying, after something as serious as this, as sexual assault, come on. But in 1988, Democratic Senator Al Gore was running in the presidential campaign and mentioned the Massachusetts furlough program. He just asked general questions about it. He didn't really, get into whether or not he agreed with it. However, he ended up losing the Democratic nomination to Michael Dukakis, who was the governor of Massachusetts at the time of William's release. Dukakis supported the program as a method of criminal rehabilitation, and the Massachusetts legislature passed a bill prohibiting furloughs for convicted first-degree murderers. But in 1976, so kind of jumping back in time once again, Dukakis vetoed the bill and argued that it cut the heart out of efforts at inmate rehabilitation. The furlough program remained in use during the intervening term of Governor Edward J. King, but it was abolished during Dukakis' final term on April 28, 1988, when he decided to run for president. George H.W. Bush was the Republican candidate at the time, and George really gave Michael Dukakis a lot of flack for kind of greenlighting this program and making it or I guess I should say putting it in use. So they came out with ad campaigns calling it a revolving door.
Bush and Dukakis on crime. Bush supports the death penalty for first-degree murderers. Dukakis not only opposes the death penalty, he allowed first-degree murderers to have weekend passes from prison. One was Willie Horton, who murdered a boy in a robbery, stabbing him 19 times. Despite a life sentence, Horton received 10 weekend passes from prison. Horton fled, kidnapped a young couple, stabbing the man and repeatedly raping his girlfriend. Weekend prison passes. Dukakis on crime.
As governor, Michael Dukakis vetoed mandatory sentences for drug dealers. He vetoed the death penalty. His revolving door prison policy gave weekend furloughs to first-degree murderers not eligible for parole. While out, many committed other crimes like kidnapping and rape, and many are still at large. Now Michael Dukakis says he wants to do for America what he's done for Massachusetts. America can't afford that risk.
He had his name has sort of been tossed around in these ads kind of as an example for why this isn't a good idea. So then his whole case was really put into the limelight. The Barnes, Clifford, and Angela, they actually ended up moving into a entirely different house. They built a new house because they just couldn't stand living in the home where the attack had happened. And even Angela said I'm not okay with being used as a statistic, because using his case mentioned their name, of course, and what happened to them, unfortunately, during the campaign. So she really wasn't in favor of that either. I'm sure, having to relive the trauma, who wants to do that? I think she had every right to be please keep my name out of your mouth. But anyways, so they started calling William Willie, like in these ads and when they would talk about him. And he actually said, "The fact is, my name is not Willie. It's part of the myth of the case. The name irks me. It was created to play on racial stereotypes. Big, ugly, dumb, violent, black Willie. I resent that. They created a fictional character who seemed believable but did not exist. They stripped me of my identity, distorted the facts, and robbed me of my constitutional rights." So, you know, I do agree, like, why change his name? Like, you're just... That's kind of, it's not a fallacy, but it is a form of some kind of debate. I can't think of it. We learned it in school. Like, there's different, like, political campaigns, kind of. There's, like, the everyman, the da-da-da-da, the da-da-da-da. So in this case, they're, like, they are kind of distorting the facts and trying to make you think a certain way about William. That's why throughout this whole thing I referred to him as William instead of Willie, because that wasn't his name. He never went by that nickname. It was just sort of given to him during this presidential election, which is... I get why they did it. I'm not saying it's right, but I understand it. But anyway, so really that's where a lot of this case gains its popularity, is because it was used so much in the campaign against Michael Dukakis by George H.W. Bush. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I actually saw it in a TikTok today, actually, I think I did. But that's why I decided to cover it. And unfortunately, you know, there's not a ton of information about it, but it's kind of nice to know a little bit more the background knowledge of the arguments that candidates use against each other. So, like, you know, George really decided to play up William's case against Michael Dukakis because he's like, hey, look, that didn't work, and you backed that program. That was, no, you shouldn't have done that. And then it just made Michael look bad, Dukakis look bad. So, I don't know. I thought this was interesting. I'm very sorry if you guys didn't, but I did. So, if you did find this video interesting, though, I would love to hear your comments down below. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, give this video a like. Have a great day. Go outside, touch some grass, and make sure to come back on Friday, and I will have another video up and ready for you guys. Bye!